Okay, this is the second podcast for Standard 4.2. In this podcast, we're going to be talking about the excretory system. So these are all the ways that your body is going to get rid of waste products. So we will be looking at the kidneys, lungs, liver, the urinary system as a whole, and we will also briefly take a look at lymph and the skin. So your excretory system's job, number one, is to collect water and to filter body fluids. So water is obviously a very important nutrient for all living things, and so we need to be able to get the water to where it needs to go and make sure we're conserving water when we need to. We also need to be able to filter out waste products from our body, and that's a really important part of what the excretory system is going to do, especially in the liver and the kidneys. So we're going to remove and concentrate waste products from the body fluids and then return the substances that we need. And all of this is going to happen in order for us to maintain homeostasis. Remember, everything comes back to homeostasis. So we get rid of what we don't need and we return the substances that we do need back into our blood flow to make sure that we always have exactly the components that we need to keep our body healthy. Once we have gotten rid of the things that we don't need, all those waste products, then we will excrete them from the body and actually eliminate them from the body. The main way that we do that is through the urinary system. So why is excretion necessary? So for our cells to stay alive, they have to continually take in water and other molecules. So they're constantly taking in stuff. Once they take in those things, they are going to be doing different kinds of chemical reactions. And through those chemical reactions, they are going to be producing waste products. So they have to get rid of those waste products. So the molecules they have to get rid of are usually waste products from different types of cellular metabolism. For example, doing cellular respiration, which is how your cells get energy, produces carbon dioxide as a waste product. If carbon dioxide were to build up in your blood, that could actually be toxic to you, make your blood very acidic, and that could lead to death, which is why you can't hold your breath for very long. So your body has to get rid of all of these waste products that get made from the different reactions that your cells are constantly doing. So waste products basically come into two major categories. The first is carbon dioxide, is a very big waste product of cellular respiration. So as your cells are getting their energy from cellular respiration, that's from breaking down glucose with oxygen, and you end up making a lot of ATP, which is the form of cellular energy. But in that process, you do make carbon dioxide. So all that carbon dioxide has to get dumped into your bloodstream through the capillaries, and then transported up to the lungs. And that is what how we're going to remove it. So we breathe that carbon dioxide out through the lungs. The second major waste product that our bodies make continuously is nitrogenous waste. Nitrogenous waste very often comes in the form of ammonia, and we end up removing it through water. So basically that is what we end up releasing through our urine, is a different form of ammonia called urea, but it's what we're going to eventually get rid of. This waste, this nitrogenous waste, comes mostly from breaking down old proteins in our cells. And through that process, we end up making this ammonia as a waste product, and we have to get rid of it in our body. Again, the buildup of anything like that kind of chemical will cause our proteins to stop working correctly, and our cells to stop working correctly, and that could be a serious problem. So the different organs, we're going to go through each one. So your lungs are actually a major organ of excretion as well as of the respiratory system. They are needed to release carbon dioxide that are produced by the cells during cellular respiration. So your lungs are going to get rid of that CO2. Remember, if you have a buildup of CO2, that's going to be a problem. So blood gets carried to the lungs. Remember when we talked about the circulatory system, one of the major parts or sections of the circulatory system is to bring blood to and from the lungs. So the blood goes to the lungs, the carbon dioxide diffuses into the lung tissue, and then you breathe that carbon dioxide out. In exchange for that, you're actually breathing in the oxygen that your cells need to do the cellular respiration. So it's this continuous process that is always happening, but your lungs are a major way of getting rid of carbon dioxide. Next up, we have the liver. Your liver, one of its main job is to take all of this excess ammonia that has been produced from breaking down proteins and removing it and sending it directly to your kidneys where it needs to get processed more. Your liver also is going to remove various toxins, including those from drugs and alcohol. So as your blood goes through your liver, you're going to be taking out the ammonia, you're going to take out other kinds of things that have gotten into your blood from the foods that you eat or things that you take, and all of that's going to get shipped off to the proper places for excretion. So your liver's kind of like a giant filter in the terms of what it does for excretion. It's basically taking a whole lot of different kinds of chemicals out of your blood, and mostly we're going to send those things off to the kidneys where they'll be further processed and then removed. So the removal of ammonia, ammonia is carried to the liver and then it's converted to a chemical called urea, and urea is a lot less toxic to our body than the ammonia is. So the ammonia, we don't want to have that circulating through our blood, so it gets changed over into this other chemical called urea. The urea is then carried over to the kidneys, and the kidneys' job is to remove it from the body. So the ammonia kind of goes through a two-step process. It turns into urea, and then the urea is what is actually going to get removed. And again, the urea is going to get dissolved in water, and that's what makes up your urine. So your kidneys, the way your kidneys are going to do this, your kidneys' jobs are to clean blood by getting rid of waste products. They also get rid of excess solutes like salt and sugar, and any extra water that you might have. And mixing all of those together, you end up making your urine. The main metabolic waste that you're going to get rid of is urea, but you may also have the salts and glucose in there, and you can also get remnants of drugs. This is why they can use urine tests to test for certain types of drugs. Those things all got filtered out of the blood in the kidneys, or sorry, in the liver, and then sent over the kidneys, and that all kind of gets processed together into the urine. And then any extra water, again, that you have in your body is going to come out in your urine. That's why it's important that you drink regularly throughout the day. The more you drink, the more urine you're going to produce, but the more of this kind of stuff that you can also get rid of in your body. Another major important job of your kidneys is to regulate water levels. If the blood has too much water or too little water, then that can interfere with normal cellular activity. Remember, we talked about this. If your blood, if you put cells in a hypotonic solution where there's too much water outside, the water will go into the cells and cause them to get bigger. If you do not have enough water, then they're in a hypertonic solution and your cells will shrink. So your kidneys' jobs is to regulate the amount of water in your body. So they are going to remove excess water if there's too much, or they're going to conserve water if it is not dilute enough. And so that's when, if you're not drinking enough water, you still produce urine because you have to get rid of waste products, but a lot of times that urine is not very dilute. It's very concentrated in the waste products. It might be darker in color or have a stronger aroma to it than if you've been drinking a lot of water. And that's your kidney's job, is to make sure that the amount of water that is in your blood stays stable. And they can do that for several days without you drinking water. But eventually they will not be able to conserve enough water anymore because they have to get rid of those waste products. Your kidneys are very hardworking. The two kidneys in the body receive about 500 gallons of blood per day. That's about the volume of a car. If you were to fill up a car with blood, it would fill up to about 500 gallons. And the blood actually only has about 5.6 liters in it. So you are getting your blood cleaned by your kidneys about once every 4 minutes. You do have two kidneys. You only need one to function, and that one can do the job that both can do. So it is possible for people to live with only one kidney. But they're just, constantly the blood is going through, and your blood circulates through your body about every 4 minutes, so it's getting clean about every 4 minutes of any kind of waste that has been produced by your cells. Remember, you're producing tons and tons of waste because you're made up of trillions and trillions of cells. So you're constantly circulating this throughout the body. Now, once your kidneys have processed your blood, cleaned it out, gotten rid of any extra stuff that's in there and any extra water, you now will make urine. So a lot of these waste products end up getting released to the body through the urine. So you will get rid of urea, and remember the urea came from ammonia. Excess materials like sugar and salt can be found in your urine. Remember the remnants of drugs also in your urine, and then any excess water. So in your urinary system, your kidneys are going to make all that urine, and then the urine actually travels down the ureter and into the bladder, and your bladder is designed to store it. And the bladder is actually an expandable muscle, so it will expand to a certain point, and there are nerves in there that trigger. Once you have a certain amount of urine in there, will say, hey, we're starting to get full, and that's when you feel like you need to go to the bathroom. And then you will release that urine out your urethra, and that is a muscle that you are able to control, so that's very much a good thing. So once you are ready to release your urine, then you can release it at an appropriate time. All right, next up we have our lymph. Lymph is a pale fluid that bathes the tissues of an organism. So you have like this kind of tissue, this fluid all over your body, everywhere, and it helps to maintain water balance between all the different cells in your body, and it also will help to remove bacteria from your tissues. So you're constantly taking in bacteria. Your immune system is working all the time to get rid of this bacteria, and your lymph is part of that process. So they can help to filter out the bacteria, get it to the places where your white blood cells might be able to work even harder. Sometimes you have get swollen lymph nodes in your neck and stuff. Your tonsils are part of this system. So places where you're likely to get infections, it's because the bacteria will kind of collect in that place, and then the white blood cells will come over and attack them. And so you might, when you're sick, get a little bit of swelling in those different places, and that's just a sign that your immune system is doing its job and working correctly. So lymph is kind of helping with that whole process. Okay. Also, your lymph can remove unneeded proteins from tissues. So a lot of times we'll make extra, different kinds of hormones or enzymes or whatever, and those things, once they're not needed anymore, need to be removed. So the lymph will help to remove them and bring them over to the bloodstream, and then your blood will get rid of them appropriately through the urinary system. Okay. Finally, we have our skin. Our skin does a little bit of excretion. It can remove excess salt through sweat. So we have special glands, sweat glands, that will produce sweat at various times. Most people sweat when they're hot or when they're working out. And through that process of sweating, you are also releasing salt. It's not the main way that we get rid of salt. It's just another way that we could get rid of salt. But a lot of times, a lot of the salt that we get rid of is through our urinary system. So there are people that don't sweat very much, whether you don't work out a lot or you just happen not to sweat very much, then this is not a main way that you're going to get rid of salt. But for some people, it is. It's also you're getting rid of water through the skin as well as you do this. All right, so finally we're going to take a look at the connection between the circulatory and excretory system. So remember, the circulatory system, its job is to transport materials to and from the cells of the body, and that's going to happen through the blood. Okay, so the blood gets transported around the different blood vessels to all the different cells. Now the circulatory drops off all of that stuff and is also then going to pick up the waste products and bring those waste products to the organs of the excretory system. So the cells have produced waste through doing their normal processes, and so that waste needs to get, your body needs to get rid of all of that waste, so the blood is going to get carried over to the excretory system. Those waste materials are then going to be released from the body by the various organs of the excretory system, so we have to get rid of all those waste materials. Remember, if the waste builds up in your body, then your cells become sick. Many of them could die, and that can cause serious problems for you.